This French team is just unfair. You have Kylian Mbappe, who is just a freak of nature when it comes to the World Cup. I mean, outside of the World Cup too. You decide to put two players on him just to make sure he doesn't do anything crazy. Then you've got Ousmane Dembele over here. So you decide to put two players on him too. Guess what? Desiree Doué is waiting. You try to follow the same logic and you know what? I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Michael Olise is showing up right behind them. If none of them are working, Didier Deschamps can just throw on another front line that would start in essentially every other nation. And say you manage to get yourself into a decent attacking position, well, guess what, buddy? Dayot Upamecano and William Saliba are waiting to greet you. Mike Maignan hasn't been tested at all in this World Cup. Easiest job in the US right now, I gotta say. It took 80 minutes for him to make his first save of the game against Morocco. Seriously. Who can stop these guys? Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back. I'm really sorry, it's been a while since I've done these update videos for the World Cup, and there's a reason for that. Well, a couple of reasons. The first one is that I had family over for some time. The second one is that when they left a couple of days ago, I was walking the dog and she saw a fox. So decided to chase after the fox, and I very stupidly was holding the leash on this hand and tried to grab it with this hand. And you can kind of see how that worked out. So I haven't been able to type for like 2 days now, but we're back now. We're back now, injured. But, you know, Donald Trump, he called in a favor and we're back. This World Cup has been insane so far. I gotta say, before we get into the France-Morocco game, we have some of the most insane momentum shifts of all time. The world champions performing great escapes back to back. This somehow not being violent conduct. This not being called either. The referee he's right there, by the way. Then again, I'm not sure how much that matters because the referees have kind of been missing all tournaments, haven't they? We have African teams becoming masters of the choke. We have the presidents of one of the host countries not only openly admitting to meddling in the sport we all love, but bragging about it.
And I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete. I understand sports really well. Really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. This referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past. I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. I understand sports really well. Really well. How do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. Yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I'm the one that got them to do it. It was not Biden.
We can go ahead and ask the Belgians how that all worked out. We have a Paraguayan politician making everything about themselves, being racist, and then threatening lawsuits when everyone calls them racist. Even their own government has been distancing themselves from her. Tells you all you need to know. Portugal are eliminated, Germany is eliminated, Brazil is eliminated, every host country is gone. Canada, United States, Mexico. Do not make those countries into an acronym, I beg of you. They're rowing. Neymar is crying, and they're rowing. Heartless. But we're here to talk about France versus Morocco in this video, and unfortunately for the Moroccans, they've been knocked out by France again. Second World Cup in a row. In the last round, victory against the Canadians pushed Morocco through. France's victory against Paraguay was like watching the Royal Rumble. The amount of fouls that just were not called over here was quite strange, wasn't it? And if you've been watching this tournament, it's somewhat of a trend at this point, isn't it? Usually in football, if you've only started watching football in this World Cup, when a team commits a series of fouls, even if they're not yellow card offenses, after accumulation of fouls, the referee has to rein it in and be like, hey guys, cut it out. You're gonna hurt someone. You know, this usually happens after what, like 4 or 5 fouls? But 12, that's a bit ridiculous. So Paraguay committed 12 fouls against France and no cards were shown. Argentina against Egypt committed 13 fouls. No cards. Netherlands against Morocco committed 17 fouls, no cards. So much for cautioning this kind of behavior, I guess. Consistency has been more or less non-existent throughout the entire tournament, so we could talk about many of these games where that's been the case. And we'll get into some conspiracy theories and my own thoughts on, you know, all of this and the leniency from refs a bit later on, but I do have to pay some bills, so this video is sponsored. Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek has you covered for all the games. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app with over 70,000 events listed. We're talking concerts, sports, festivals, the whole lot. And every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, so if something goes sideways on the other end, you're not the one absorbing it. So if you are in the US this summer for the World Cup, I have a special discount. You can get $30 off any World Cup ticket when you spend $200 or more. Just use code FootballIconic, hit the link in the description so the code gets auto-applied. That's $30 off any World Cup tickets when you spend $200 or more using code FootballIconic. Thanks again to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. So, the match itself, strong start by France. They did really well to immediately get into a really strong shape. And just on Kylian Mbappe, you know, every time I watch him, I'm always wondering how he does it, because he obviously isn't a stereotypical number 9. And that's the common critique that people have of him, that he's not in the box when you'd expect typical number 9s to be in the box. He drifts in and out of the pocket, drifts out left, sometimes pops out wide on the right, and he just knows where to find space. And he draws so many players with him whenever he does it. In the early moments of the game, he is surrounded by about 4 or 5 Moroccan players, drifts into some space in the pocket, gets the ball, does a quick snapshot, and it's just an early warning sign for the Moroccans. And wouldn't be the last. I guess for all the people that are going to die on the hill that Mbappe is the problem at Real Madrid, well, I guess there aren't that many of them at the moment, but they'll come out. They'll come out next season. They definitely will. But it really is quite obvious that you have to build around him. You just have to. Which brings us to the penalty. Morocco stayed very compact and was just really frustrating France. They did quite well to do so. So it is only natural that as soon as the game opened up just a tiny bit and Morocco went forward, France had free reign as soon as they got the ball back and went on the counter-attack. You do not want to be countered against this French team. Goes one-on-one against Mazraoui, gets a penalty. And again, listen, we'll get into it in a little bit just now, but the consistency in this tournament, especially with VAR, it's so strange. So there was a 5-minute delay for this penalty in I guess what they were checking for the VAR. It seems that they were checking for a potential dive for the penalty and also for a potential foul in the lead up on Hakimi earlier on. But why did it need to be that long? We were all pretty much just waiting in the dark, and Mbappe was visibly frustrated at this, as were all of us. That is a really big issue when it comes to this tournament. Some checks take up to 5 minutes, some of them take 30 seconds, but the commentator just confirms that they're being checked. We don't know, which is what fuels all this online debate. Are they doing it on purpose? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, saved by Bono. Morocco's goalkeeper, and what an incredible player this man is in these situations. 9 penalties he's faced in World Cups, 4 saved, 3 missed. You know that penalties are called penalties, right? They're supposed to favor attackers in the attacking team, but not when it comes to him, you know? The stutter step claimed another victim, and we knew Mbappe was going to be upset about this, not just in the context of the game, but the Golden Boot race, Haaland, Messi, even Harry Kane, all breathing down his neck, all alive in the competition. You need a stat pad as much as you can, my brother. But because this is Kylian Mbappe, it would not be his last chance. Like I said, France always looked like the team that was going to score first, and when it happened, it wasn't as surprising, but we can all just sit here and be in wonder of Mbappe and the way that he scored it. I mentioned earlier on how he was able to drift in and out of pockets and get the ball in these sorts of positions. He does the exact same thing over here. He latches onto it very quickly on the left. Issa Diop has to react quickly, but he's still just not quick enough. Mbappe gets a really powerful curling strike off, curling it around Diop. Bono has no chance. Look at the placements over here. Ousmane Dembele showed that he wasn't about to be outclassed by Mbappe here, getting his own goal too, drifting through the Moroccan defense, passing it into the corner. This time Bono does manage to get a hand on it, but it's not enough. And look at how many players are drawn to Mbappe over here and how the space opens up for Dembele. This is a real problem with this team. It is ridiculous. With 5 goals in a World Cup, usually, if the year is not 2026, a player is usually in good stead for a strong Golden Boot race, but that's just not the case right now. France have 2 players that have scored 5 or more goals in this World Cup. The quarterfinals have just started, and Ousmane Dembele with 5 isn't even in the top 4. But that brings us to Morocco, of course. Listen, they've had a sensational run in this campaign and a sensational 4 years leading up to it. They were just put up against, probably the strongest team in the world right now. Again, I will say that they did play a little bit scared. They were a bit passive here and there, nowhere near the levels of confidence that they displayed up until now in this tournament. It was their worst performance, for a team that had played so well up until now in the competition. Even after the penalty save, there wasn't all that much of a momentum shift and a real belief for them to start attacking and going forward. Of course, all of this is understandable with so many absences. Bono has a generational game every other week in a Morocco shirt, so he was incredible. Obviously, they're shining light and definitely they're man of the match in this game, but I understand why Morocco played this way. If they tried to be as dominant and pressing and as protagonistic as they have been throughout this whole competition, things would have ended quite badly for them. I think everyone now knows why Paraguay decided to play the most brutal CONMEBOL football before a ball had even been kicked. Not condoning it, but I get it. They had no other choice. This France team, they're just too good. However, on that Paraguay game, even if their approach was the best they could do, it's a travesty that it was allowed in the first place. So let's talk a little bit about conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theories are quite insane. I'm sure you've all heard about it. You know, FIFA is conspiring to have the big boys all stay in the World Cup to maintain viewership and interest and all that. You have things like people talking about the amount of added time added onto games such as the Spain and Portugal game at the end to try and keep Ronaldo in the competition, even though Portugal weren't attacking or doing anything at all until like the final 5 minutes. So I'm not sure how much help that would have done, but that's neither here nor there. The main problem, the main thing that people have been talking about is the fouls and the refereeing inconsistency. The most recent one is Argentina versus Egypt. Ironically, out of most of the games in the tournament, I think this was just one of them where the ref had a good game. I don't see, I mean, looking back at all the fouls and all the challenges that he called and didn't call, I'm not sure how many mistakes he made. The issue is and was consistency. So we take a look at one of the goals that was disallowed for Egypt because there was a foul in the lead up. Look at this. This is a foul. I think all of us are of the opinion that this was a foul. The issue is that early on in the competition, Argentina played Austria and a very similar thing happened. Alexis McAllister goes to the back of this Austrian player and it's not called. The goal that eventually happens stands. Lionel Messi does this against Algeria but remains on the field to then score a hat-trick. Also, for the sake of parity, when Egypt scored their disallowed goal, Zico took his shirt off but was shown no card whatsoever. This is a yellow card offense. And if you look at this entire tournament, there are situations that are just blatantly fouls. You know, it's not a case of toughen up, get up, you know, don't fall down so easily. It's pretty much just a player bringing someone down. Now, I'm personally one of those people that was heavily in favor initially of the, mandate of these referees to be extremely lenient, let the game flow, be physical, because football, if you didn't know, is a contact sport. But if this comes at the expense of actual fouls not being called, then that is problematic. And I'm not one of those people that believes in the conspiracy theories per se, at least not in the same way that a lot of other people do. But what I do believe in 100% is that referees can be incompetent, inconsistent, and overcorrect when they make bad calls. And I think it's this inconsistency that presents precedent for making and not making calls to kind of save their own asses. And the VAR teams are also referees. So they're kind of all in this together. So if one person is shown to be incompetent, they get lumped into it. So they help each other out. We see this in every league around the world. So this isn't some sort of new kind of belief. And the real danger here is that the World Cup is heating up right now. You know, obviously every decision that's been made up until now, teams have been eliminated, teams have gone through, all that, they've been important. But now that we're in the top 8, the top 4, the top 2, I think that there are going to be a couple of really, really controversial calls. And I think in the year of 2026, when we have all this technology and all this knowledge and all this know-how, it shouldn't be that way. Anyway, just a final note on Morocco. It's an elimination in the quarterfinal stage, and they'll be upset, but they should be very, very proud. Back-to-back quarterfinal appearances, the first African team to ever do that, and a strong project to build upon right now. And it's very evident that they are now able to bring in players with Moroccan heritage and good players too. Bouadi, if you guys didn't know, is French. He was born in France. He was hoping to get a call-up for the French national team for this World Cup. When he didn't, he switched to Morocco. And if they can poach a player of that quality, I say poach, but if they can convince a player of that quality to not hold out for France, he's only 18. He's probably going to be eligible for the French national team in the next cycle, 4 years, right? Look at France's midfield right now. They took Kante, they have Rabiot. Those guys aren't going to be there next time around. I would say Bouadi will definitely be good enough to. But if they can take those sorts of players, which it seems that they're able to now, who knows how far they can climb. So watch this space. Anyway, I want to end this video with a question, even though this question is probably just as controversial. Is Kylian Mbappe the best French player ever? I'm hesitant to say it, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are, but I think it's definitely a conversation that carries quite a bit of weight. Nobody here can deny that we have to have this conversation. He's France's all-time top scorer by some margin. He's the only French player to be involved in over 100 goals with the national team. He's already won a World Cup at the time of recording, has never been knocked out of a World Cup earlier than the semi-final stage in 3 attempts. He's only 27. By the way, the obvious competition is Michel Platini, Zinedine Zidane. You can throw in Thierry Henry, Trezeguet, Vieira, Emmanuel Petit, but in my opinion, I think it really just comes down to those 3. Mbappe, Platini, Zidane. Take your pick and let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, that's all for me today. France versus Belgium or Spain is up next. The streams will be coming soon. We'll be doing one for England versus Norway tomorrow. Hope to see you guys there. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.